Today we are going to make the free pattern, the Snippy Pouch. Firstly, you can get this on our website and download it for free. It's kylieandthemachine.com, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel too. Thank you! If you're printing at home, there's only 2 joins that you need to make. Just cut at the bottom and join with sticky tape. There you go. And if you print the copy shop version in A0, you will actually be able to cut out and make your own little instruction booklet, like a accordion style. For all the instructions on choosing the right size pattern are in the downloadable instruction booklet. Okay, so you'll need the following materials: double-sided fusible foam or fusible batting, or there are lots of alternatives. We list them in the instructions as well, but we like this one. Bias binding, you can either buy it pre-made or you can make your own at home from scraps, and if you do, we recommend the Clover 25mm bias tape maker. A walking foot is really handy when sewing through a lot of layers. Wonder clips, definitely need those. Ooh, labels and patches from our website as well. Fabric glue, essential for this project. And you'll need a little bit of Velcro. So take your foam and choose your fabrics to sandwich around the foam. So I've got a fabric that is wrong side to the fusible on both sides, and we're basically making a little sandwich, and both sides of the fabric will be fused to the foam. There's only 2 pieces to cut out, piece A and piece B. Choose your binding, and then the fun part, choose your labels. I like the bigger labels because they can seal more for this project. The patches we've just recently added are even bigger for the bigger sized scissor pouches. Now take your Velcro and cut it into a rectangle that is just slightly smaller than the label. We do that because the label is the secret to hiding all of those stitches. To portion the binding piece, all you need to do is tightly wrap the binding around both pieces and trim so that there's a 1cm seam allowance, and I like to clip it. And then for the curved edge, you just need to cut a piece that's slightly longer. Baste a line of stitches along the curved edge through all layers close to the edge. And then we're going to use the glue to position the binding along that curved edge. And for this whole pattern, we're using the glue as a very important tool in positioning the binding. Think of it like the glue is holding the binding in its final position, and the sewing is only to secure everything in place. So everything should look exactly how you want it to look before you even start sewing. Okay, for this curved edge, backstitch at the beginning and the end, and so close to the edge, make sure you do catch the underside, the reverse edge. Next, trim the excess off the sides. Okay, that looks good. Velcro. Take the hook side, which is the scratchy side, and line it up in the middle. I like to use the glue to position this as well. Now let's join piece A and piece B. How we do this is we are going to clip everything together in its final position, and we will baste the raw edges through all of the layers like before, except this time we're going to go around the entire perimeter. Next, grab your pair of scissors and bring them back to the pouch because we need to check the fit and check where the other part of the Velcro is going to sit. Okay, so we're leaving a bit of space at either side and at the tip, and we're folding that flap down, and that is going to let us know where the other part of the Velcro, called the loop side, will be attached, like that. And of course glue it in place and sew around the edge of this part of the Velcro. Ooh, look at those ugly stitches there. Luckily, the plan is to cover them with the label. This particular label is an end fold, so I'm pulling one side out because that's going to be covered by the binding, and I will use my glue again to position that exactly where I want so that all of that ugliness is hidden. Okay, so I have swapped back to the pink thread again because of course we want all of our stitches to be blended in nicely. Okay, I'm going to sew around the label and secure that in place, which will hide all of my Velcro stitches. And before we move on to the next part, I'd just like to give everything a nice little trim and make sure those edges are neat and tidy, ready for the binding. Now just unclip and unfold the binding because we need to join the two short ends. So with wrong sides together, unfold the binding and sew along that edge with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And you don't need to backstitch because once this is sewn, we will fold it back into its shape. So press that seam open and fold everything back how it was. With the join, we want to position that so that it's inconspicuous. So the best place to position that join is right there. So I like to clip this part in place first because I want that part to stay exactly where it is. Now you can get the binding and stretch it around the pouch. Just stretch it around the pouch and you'll get a feel for how it will sit. You've got a thinner layer to go over on the top of the pouch and you have a thicker, double layer at the bottom, so it is a little bit more tricky down there. So before I even get the glue, I'm just simply using my hands to work out where everything's going to sit nicely, and just the heat from my hands will actually make the fibers of the binding kind of melt into place, because binding is cut on the bias. That's why it's called bias binding, and it is like that so that we can manipulate it around curves. If it was cut on the straight grain, it wouldn't be that easy. So we're going to use our hands and the heat from our hands to get it nicely in place before we glue and before we sew. And as I said earlier, the glue is your best friend, and it's the tool that we're going to use to keep that binding exactly how we want it to be and keep it stuck in place without using pins, because then when we go to sew, all we're worrying about is getting nice neat stitches because we've already secured the binding in place. So here I am about to add glue now. Yeah, I'm going to put it all the way around. I start at the back on the bottom side, here on the bottom part of the pouch, and I'm securing the back first. And because we want to make sure that all the layers get sewn, it is necessary to have a slightly longer underside than the top side, so that when you top stitch through, it will go through all of the layers. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of layers to get through. Using the glue again at the front, now watch how I squish this down. I go in the center and then kind of sides of the center, and then you've got these little bumps, and you just need to squish those bumps down with your finger, and see how it's nice and smooth now. It's important that this part is nice and neat because it is a pointy curve, so take your time with that one. And then I'm simply gluing the rest down and making sure everything is sitting nicely before I sew. The other thing is that we are going to top stitch the bottom part of the pouch and the top part of the pouch separately, so that the stitches on the front facing part of the pouch will all be nice and neat. I'm using clips here, and I'm really just using these to hold the binding in place because it takes about 2 to 3 minutes for the glue to set. So once again, I'm going to do the underside, or the reverse side, the part that I won't be looking at when I'm sewing first, which is on the top part flap of the pouch. And then this part is actually going to be the top part that I'm sewing through, that I'll be looking at while I'm sewing. This curve is not quite as pointy as the other side, but you do need to make sure that it looks nice and neat, because that is the focal point of the pouch and that's where the label is. So you want to make sure that everything looks as neat as possible. I've just clipped the center because I'm happy with where the center is, and I'm clipping that there so I can work on the sides. I didn't speed this part up because I think this is the part that people will have the most questions about. Okay, so I've glued everything. Oh, maybe I hadn't glued it all. Okay, the final touches, making sure that everything is secured, especially the back side, because I won't be able to see that bit. Now, we are going to sew a specific order when we do this. We are going to start sewing here and then sew around to here, backstitching at the beginning and at the end. We do this in 2 stages because the lower part of the pouch is the front facing part, and we all know that when we're top stitching, the more beautiful side is the side we can see. So we're going to sew it in 2 stages, and see how I'm pivoting around here? It's a little tricky to sew in a straight line, so maybe you can lift and pivot as well. And we're going to finish there. So we basically have sewn from one edge to the other, and let's check the back. Yep, it's all secure as well. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to flip it over. We're going to start sewing and sew around. Start sewing where we left off on the other side, except this time we're sewing the front flap, which is the front facing part of the pouch, and make sure that this is also nice and neat and beautiful. And I am doing a little bit of pivoting here, even on this curve. I'm doing like 1 or 2 stitches, and then I'm lifting the foot and pivoting it slightly so that I can get a nice curve. And I'm going very slow because this part is the front and center. And when you get to the end, we're going to backstitch that. And now all that's left to do is trim the threads and give it a nice fold, put the scissors in, and test run the pouch. I think this looks beautiful. It's really telling people, hey, these are special scissors, you shouldn't touch them. And that's really the whole purpose. And with the foam being quite thick, it offers a level of protection for both yourself and for your scissors. Well, that's the end. I hope you enjoyed making this snippy pouch. We'd love to see what you make. You can use the hashtag KATM Snippy Pouch. And while you're here, you may as well just press that subscribe button because it'll help us know that you'd like to see more videos. Bye for now. Bye.